It's October 28th. Still have some poppies. And some marigolds. And we got a couple daisies kicking around. Anyways, oh, we do have some asters too, but they're more towards the garden. Here's a couple that aren't looking really great, but there's quite a bit more in the garden. Not that you asked. So I'm going to tell another one of my stupid stories. Stupid, the subject, the object of the stupidity, of course, is me. This goes back 40 years anyways, probably 41 or 42 years ago. Look at these, are really cute too. These wildflowers, whatever they are. Lots of them in the ditch here. So the story goes back 40 years ago to a little place called Packetville, which is in the Acadian north of the province of New Brunswick. I was 20 years old or something like that, so gosh, it's like 43 years ago. So I went to Packetville with a group called Katimavik, which was a volunteer government organized group. And the deal was they would pay our way for 9 months, 3 parts of the country, 3 months each part of the country. This was my first rotation of the 3. They would pay our way, they'd give us $1 a day and $1,000 bursary at the end if we lasted the 9 months. What we offered was our services. So we'd go into communities and we would do volunteer work, usually working alongside community people and community-based projects. So to make a long story short and just hit to the focus of my stupidity, and as I thought of this story, it does remind me I do have another story from Packetville I will share, which isn't so much a stupid story, but it's a story worth sharing for me. All right, so there's about 10 or 11 of us in this group, and we're all from different parts of Canada, and we all arrive in Packetville to do our job, which was actually building a lodge for the Boy Scouts. There were some rules that applied, one of them being no illegal use of drugs and no abuse of drugs if you were of age. So if you're old enough for alcohol, which I was, I could drink it, I just couldn't abuse it. We ended up having a couple of our members kicked out for being in the bar underage. It was really sad to see them go, but them's the breaks, right? So one day, I think it was 3 or 4 of us went and sat in the bar. We were all of age. But when you make $1 a day, you don't go and spend it on beer, even if beer was probably $2 a bottle. You don't guzzle beer down. So I had my beer in front of me, and we were then there maybe an hour, and I still had half a bottle of beer left, so that beer's really warm. But when we were ready to leave, on $1 a day, there's no way I'm leaving a half a bottle of beer on the table when I walk out. So I guzzled it. And as soon as I got it down, it's like my stomach immediately told me, hey buddy, this is coming right back up. I didn't ask for that warm beer, and I'm not hanging on to it. So you better do what you gotta do, because I'm sending it right back up the chute. And I knew it, I could feel it. So I beelined my way to the washroom right away, and I walked in a hurry. I was somewhat familiar with the bathroom because I'd been to the bar a few times. And I threw open the door, and off to my left was the sink, and beyond the sink was the urinal. To the right, so right in front of me, but to the right, was the stall with the toilet. I had only like a couple seconds to make up my mind. Was I gonna puke in the sink? Was I gonna barf all over the inside the urinal? Or was I gonna throw open the door to the toilet, the cubicle door to the toilet, and hope to God that I was gonna project into the toilet and not all over the place? And I had enough time during all of this to think about what a bloody mess I was gonna make. Well, I didn't want to clean up the sink or the urinal, so I opted for the toilet. You gotta think all of this happened in like about 3 seconds. I just threw the toilet door open. I believe it opened to the inside. Anyways, whichever way it was, inside or outside, I threw that toilet door open and it was, the beer was already coming back up. So all I did is I pointed my mouth towards where I hoped the toilet would be, and I just gushed. It was disgusting. What I didn't know is there was a guy standing there peeing, and he had cowboy boots on, and his cowboy boots had the pants tucked into the boots. I remember that very well. I barfed all over the back of this poor guy's cowboy boots, probably from his knees, the back of his knees, down to the about the top few inches of his cowboy boots, and I just barfed all over him, that part of him. I looked up at that instant. As soon as I was done barfing, it was one big Ralph, and he cocked his head and looked at me. I looked at him. This was all a very split second, and I said sorry, and I left. That was it. Never went back to that bar. Now, oddly enough, I live in the same province here 43 years later as the one that I barfed in that guy's cowboy boots. I often wonder, he was older than me, as I remember. I would say he was maybe 6 to 10 years older than me. That's just a recall, but I don't know if that's even true. So it's quite likely he's still alive. I'm 63. He might be 70, early 70s. I wonder how many times he's told that story. I've told it a lot of times. I'm only about 3 or 4 hours away from Packetville. One day I'll make it back up there. And my intent is, if the bar is still there, is to go into the bar and find some older people like me, my age and older. And if they speak English, it's a very French community, very Acadian. If I can find someone that speaks English and has lived there for a long time, I'm going to ask them if anyone knows of that story, and of the guy that got puke all inside his cowboy boots. Quite a big surprise for him. If he's still there and he doesn't want to beat me up or kill me, I'm going to offer to buy him a beer. And I'll tell him the story, and hopefully we can both laugh. That is probably one of the most embarrassing things I've ever done. I don't think the stupidest, but definitely the most embarrassing. That's my story, and unfortunately, I'm sticking with it.